Hey everyone, so I wanted to jump on here very quickly today to talk about the recruiting process and how athletes can really have the best recruiting process possible, because if you're an athlete or even a parent or a coach, you know that the recruiting process can be a little stressful, a little overwhelming. It can be a lot of things. And from my personal experience and from working with athletes and the coaching that I've done and talking to college coaches, being around them, I think that there are some things that athletes do, I would say some mistakes that athletes make in the recruiting process. And so I really want to kind of just really quickly talk on a few of those things, on a few of the things that I think athletes could do a little bit better to help them have that really good recruiting experience. Because, guys, too many times athletes have not good recruiting experiences because it's filled with pressure or fear or just the unknown, and they don't even really know how to navigate it. So I wrote down some things over here on my computer about some tips that I would give athletes on how they can have just a better recruiting experience, because we want athletes to have a great recruiting experience. I want athletes to have a great recruiting experience. I wish I would have known some of these things and done some of these things. Now, I ended up at a great school that was a very great fit for me. That was more by the grace of God than my own, I would say, preparation or awareness. And so one of the biggest things I think athletes, maybe I want to say a mistake that they would make, is that they're not informed. So big things that I'm seeing with my athletes that I work with, other athletes, people that I hear from, is that these athletes are not informed. And one of the things I mean with that kind of goes within that is that these athletes don't know their why. And so that's kind of like the simple one I want to start with not being informed, is athletes don't know their why. They don't know, one, why they want to play in college, or they don't know why they're even playing their sport altogether. Now, I think if some athletes would sit back and be honest with themselves and say, okay, why do I want to play in college? Why do I even love my sport? Why am I playing it? They might get some answers that might surprise them, or it just might help them really kind of dig into that and have more passion for the game, for the recruiting process. And so a big thing, if they want to play in college, they need to ask themselves, why do I want to play in college? Why do I want to be at that level? Work hard to get at that level, because it is a lot of hard work. So that's one of the informed I'm talking about. This kind of the second thing I want to hit on with being informed is that they're not informed about their choices, about the schools they're interested in, and they're not informed about what they want. So athletes who don't know what they want out of the recruiting process, what they want out of schools, they're going to have a hard time finding a school that is the best fit for them, because at the end of the day, athletes need to be finding a school that is the best fit for them. Regardless of the name, regardless of the division, it needs to be a fit for them. And so when athletes are not informed about what they actually want, when it's a lot of times because they haven't actually taken the time to sit down and think through, okay, this is what I want out of a school, and this is what I want out of a school holistically. So in more than just my sport, they haven't taken the time to sit down and do that. And when you don't know what you want, how are you supposed to navigate talking to different schools, reaching out to different schools, talking to schools that show interest in you? So athletes need to know what they want out of a school while they're in the recruiting process. And when they know what they want, they're not going to be as overwhelmed with, what schools, because then they can take, hey, these are the things that I want out of a school, out of a sports program. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to apply that to the schools that I'm looking at, to research schools, to the schools who have shown interest in me. And a good way to do that is through criteria lists, which I'll hit on just a little bit more. And so one of the other things that I put on there was, when you're not informed about what you want as an athlete, you're going to waste time and money. So parents, this might hit you a little bit harder, but when your athlete doesn't know what they want out of a school, you might spend a whole lot of time and money going to a bunch of different camps, maybe showcases that you don't need to be going to. You're spending all these times or going on campus visits. And not that that's wrong, that you can't go on a lot of campus visits into camps, but if you're going to go on a lot of them, make sure there's schools that you're actually interested in, that you would go to, because you know what they offer. You know what that school's about, what, you know, the different things socially, culturally, educationally, sports program. You know that from a holistic view. And when athletes know what they want, when they create that criteria list of this is what I want out of school, that's going to save you time and money, because then you can actually visit schools or go to specific camps of schools where you know, hey, this is a school I could actually potentially go to, not when I'm just like, they're kind of interested in me, so I'm going to go to it, or I like the name of this school, or I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to start going to a bunch of camps. That's not quite the right way to approach that. And again, it's not going to be great with helping with time and money from that standpoint. So another thing I put seeing recruiting as a means to an end, and seeing recruiting through the lens of just your sport, of purely your sport. And so when I say as a means to an end, they're so focused, athletes are sometimes so focused on the outcome of get a scholarship, get recruited, that they completely forget about the process. And when you completely forget about the process, it's going to actually affect that outcome, which is funny because we're so worried about the outcome, and we're actually affecting the outcome by not focusing on the process. So I would tell athletes to focus on the process, focus on whether that's physically you playing, whether that's doing the research to be informed about different schools or about even what's out there for you. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to focus on that process and not be so consumed by the outcome, because if you're so consumed by the outcome, you're probably going to make yourself miserable. You're probably not actually going to achieve the outcome that you want either. And so something else that I put under that, let's see here. So I put, again, you're seeing recruiting, you're looking at the recruiting process through the lens of purely your sport. Athletes sometimes have a problem because of, if you're not informed, your mind goes in 500 different directions, and you're so worried about purely just getting recruited for your physical skills that you think only about the sport when you look at schools, and you don't think about, hey, what is the culture like at this school? What educational programs do they offer? What size is the campus? Where is it located? How far away from home is it? Even with when it comes down to your education, okay, I want to do this major. 1, do they offer it? 2, does the sports program allow me to do it or allow me to do it well, or whatever that is? So looking at the recruiting process, looking at schools holistically, not just through the eyes of, okay, I know about this school. Hey, this school was top 10 in the country last year in NCAA Division I, so the only thing I'm worried about is that they're a really good school. They have a really good softball program. But did you take the time to think about what are their educational programs like culturally, socially, location? Am I going to like even where I'm at, the physical location? So I think athletes really need to look at the recruiting process holistically. They need to look at their school options holistically, not just for their sport. And that goes with being informed and doing research on that school. And that's also very impressive to college coaches if when you're reaching out to them, contacting them, whatever it may be, you say, hey, I really looked into your school and I think your school would be a great fit because of this, 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 and this. Because a college coach is going to kind of perk up and go, okay, I'm interested in that athlete because they're probably going to stay. If this athlete wants to be here because they love the academics, they love the campus, they love the culture, all of these things, hey, that's an athlete I would want versus one that's just like, you guys have a really good softball program or whatever sports program it is and I want to play for you. That's great too, but if there's an athlete who wants to be there for more than just your sport, if they get discouraged in their sport, they also like the rest of the school, so it's not just going to be, well, I didn't like my freshman year, I'm discouraged, so I'm out of here. And so that's something that is really good for coaches to hear too. And that goes with the being informed and creating that criteria list so you know, hey, these are the things I want. And so also one more thing under that, when I talked about being so focused on the outcome versus the process, is that sometimes athletes get so worried about their physical performance that they forget everything else that comes with recruiting, whether that is focusing on their education, whether that is focusing on their attitude, how they're acting during a game, how they're interacting with their teammates, with their family, with their friends. I've heard stories of coaches where they'll be at games watching athletes, and the athletes, doing great during the game, whatever it is, then they come out from the dugout after the game and their parents go to greet them, and it's like, I don't want to talk to you, mom and dad, or like, take my bag, whatever it is. And to a coach, that's like, ooh, red flag. They're treating their parents terribly, or whoever they're talking to. Like, are they going to treat me that way? How is that going to work? So again, when athletes, when you get so focused on purely your performance, because you're so worried about this within the recruiting process, you forget all the other things that could be a really, really important part of that recruiting process. And so the last thing that I wrote down is that athletes can get so overwhelmed in the recruiting process. They can get so overwhelmed that they tend to just kind of go for whatever or do whatever. So if a school is interested in them, they're like, oh, okay, maybe I should go to this school. Or it's only who's interested in them because they're so overwhelmed they don't even know how they should go about looking for schools, discovering schools, what they want. Again, that goes back to my first point, that athletes need to be informed. They need to know, hey, this is what I want out of a school, so they're not so overwhelmed. And I'm going to go back again to my criteria list. Create a criteria list, athletes. And what I mean by that is have a list. So your criteria list, let's say you have a category for education, for affordability of the school, where it's located, the competitiveness of the sports program. What you do is you create all these criteria and you make a list and say, okay, for education, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to major in, or I think I want to major in this area. Okay, that's my criteria. For location, I want a school that's within 6 hours from home. For program competitiveness, I want a school that competes to win conference every year, or they're in this division. So when you actually can sit down and say, okay, this is what I want. These are the things I want out of the school. And now, mind you, as you grow and get older and things change, maybe your interests change, that criteria list can mold and change with you as an athlete. But when you sit down and take the time to think through it, it's going to give you such a good base to research schools. If you don't know where to start, it'll help you research schools, to maybe take the schools you're already interested in or are interested in you and apply the criteria to them and go, okay, so I've been interested in this school, but they really don't fit much of what I want, or I'm interested in this school and wow, they fit a lot of what I want in all areas. That's great. So it gives you a really good baseline. And when you have that information, when you're informed, it's going to give you confidence. You're not going to feel overwhelmed, because no one wants to feel overwhelmed. No one wants to feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And so again, and then with that I put know your why. Know why you even want to play in college. Okay. And then yes, the last thing I put, do all of these things to give yourself confidence and calm in the recruiting process, because having confidence and calm in the recruiting process is such a big key to not feeling overwhelmed. Okay, so be informed. Create that criteria list so you know what you want. You have the basis of, hey, this is what I want out of a school. Holistically, remember, not just their sports program. Holistically, okay? So be informed in that, and that's going to help you save time, save money, and just have confidence and calm in the recruiting process. So again, the whole reason I'm even saying this, doing this, is because athletes, I want you to enjoy the recruiting process, but more importantly, I want you to have a good college experience. And when we don't approach the recruiting process in the right way, we're not going to have a great college experience for the most part. You know, we may end up getting to a school that maybe we weren't informed about at all, and it ends up being a great fit, and that's awesome. But I would say set yourself up to have the best experience through being informed and knowing what you want, like I said, that can mold and change. But for the most part, having that really good basis. And again, if you want, I have a free resource, my criteria list that we have built out. That is a free resource on our website, onpurposesoftball.com. You can scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage and you can click on our free resources link and it'll give you, you can download our criteria list PDF. We have other free resources there. We have a recruiting workbook for sale. So you can go look at all of that. But again, I want all you athletes to have a good recruiting process, to have a good time doing that. So if you have any questions about the recruiting process or maybe what it takes to get there or what it's like to play at a certain level, you can always reach out to us. You can always email us, go to our website, fill out a contact form, and I would be happy to respond to you with that. Reach out to us through our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook. And I would love to talk to you, whether you're an athlete or a parent, whoever you are, because again, this is about you and this is about you having a great recruiting experience and an even better college experience.